Welcome to the Insight Thru Experience Podcast. Podcast created to provide information about what life is like inside the most specialized special tactics organization in the U.S. Air Force. In these episodes, we'll be bringing you the experiences from many of our experts, ranging from our human performance optimization staff, our combat mission supporters, as well as our special warfare operators. Our main objective with these podcasts are to provide the listener with a unique look inside our culture of excellence in hopes that you will make the 724 a future career goal. Now, sit back, relax, take some notes, prepare to hear from some of the Air Force's finest. Thank you for joining us on the Insight Thru Experience Podcast. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Insight Thru Experience Podcast. We have another cool episode for you. In fact, we've been trying to get this one in for about 6 months now, and syncing up my schedule with these guys' schedules has been really challenging. And that's just the life inside the 724. So today we're bringing you Intel specialists, two of them. Ken and Jeremy are joining me today on the show to really relate to the audience everything Intel and what it's like here at the organization. So to help the audience gain a better understanding of who you are and where you came from, just give starting with Ken, just give a brief background of how you ended up in the Air Force and in Intel.
Well, my journey started at the tender age of 26 years old. After I had a professional career on the outside, done some college, tried to find my way in the civilian sector. I was in a kind of a title officer role within real estate in Southern California. And about 2006 timeframe, the real estate market decided to take its turn its head upside down and needed something a little more and wanted to do something a little more with my life. So I decided to enlist in the Air Force as a fire protection specialist. Actually, long story with that one. Became a fire protection specialist. Was stationed in Cocoa Beach, Florida at Patrick Air Force Base. Spent 5 years at that assignment. And around 2012 timeframe, the Air Force decided to kind of restructure its NCO posture within the fire protection career field, and ended up choosing from the mandatory retraining list into intelligence operations, or a 1-0 career field. Didn't really have a lot of insight into it. Did the garden variety, web search on Air Force portal. Had some generic information, and decided to throw my hat in the realm for being a 1-0.
Awesome. Thanks, Ken. Ken and I got to work together for a year or two inside Det 1, which runs all training and selection for the organization. So I know Ken fairly well, and it's good to have him on here. All right, Jeremy, over to you.
Hey, so for me, I had a little different approach. I started at the age of 17, right out of high school, jumped in, and kind of got a weird start off with my recruiter. I wanted to be a photographer and wanted to do stuff like that. And he kept telling me, well, there's only like one slot a year. So, you know what, how about you just take this test? We're going to see how smart you are, and we'll go from there. And me being 17 and cocky was like, all right, sure, let's do that. And so it was the D-Lab, ended up doing well enough to get picked up for that, I guess. So he was telling me, oh, man, because you did well on this test, you're going to be a secret agent now, like James Bond. And again, 17, didn't know any better. And he's like, so we're just going to get rid of your previous contract, and we're going to give you this new one here. And that's how I ended up being a linguist. So I went to DLI for 2 years and trained up as a Chinese linguist. Passed that, went to my first duty station in Hawaii, and then found out that, that's going to be my life for the rest of my career here in the Air Force, is just going back and forth between Hawaii and Fort Meade. And I wasn't really keen on that because I joined to go to a lot of places, and, I wanted to deploy as well, which wasn't an opportunity at the time based on what I was doing. So I took the first term airman retraining and was able to get into what I do now, which is GeoInt. So I did a stint over at Langley, and then got picked up over here.
I know people outside the Air Force are probably listening to this and hear you two talk about Cocoa Beach and having to rotate over to Hawaii and back. And like, man, you guys, what? Those are some pretty good backgrounds and interesting for me too. Let me ask you, and we'll go back to Ken for this one. What was your Intel job like before you came here? Just to build some of that relatability with the audience out there.
Yeah, certainly. So my first duty station for the Intel group, it was at Ellsworth Air Force Base in outside of Rapid City, South Dakota. It was an RPA unit, or remotely piloted aircraft unit, as Intel support. So starting out, I was what's called a mission intelligence coordinator, or MIC. So you are essentially sitting in the Squadron Operations Center. It's a small room with screens and multiple workstations with ISR feeds and Merc chat rooms, and just a lot going on for that, and a lot of coordination. So you start out kind of sitting the line per se, which is actually sitting at your workstation and supporting a particular RPA app or sortie that mission, and you are more of like the intermediary between the ground supporting units and the actual RPA, like pilot and sensor operator. You're kind of fielding all the questions and all the coordination, and you're just relaying over a secured comms back to the GCS, which is just on the other side of the Squadron Operations Center. So essentially, they're just right across the hall from me. So just relaying data points and coordination back to them to make sure that we're focused on what we should be focused on at that particular mission set.
Dude, that is so interesting to me. I've never heard it described like that. Never heard really inside an RPA squadron like that, what you guys are doing on the inside. So that's interesting. Jeremy, over to you. Your assignment before you came here, what was that like? What were you doing on a daily basis?
Let's see. I was at Langley. It's in the Hampton Roads area of Virginia. I was working at a DGS, which distributed ground system. For Intel, it can kind of be like a black hole for assignments, because once you get that DGS code on you, it sticks with you. And so they're like, well, you've got that experience. We'll just move you to another DGS. And they've got them all over the world. And so you're doing kind of the same job over and over again, which is another reason why I was kind of like bummed when I got there, because, the whole reason I retrained was to do different things and go different places and such. So, but I did enjoy my time there. As soon as I got there, I was a retrainee, but I was retrainee from Intel. So I had the same exact badge as everybody else. So they didn't know, they just saw me as a E5 that, should know what he's doing. So it was really like sink or swim real quick, and I had to just kind of figure out my way. And so went in, and I was a basic geo and analyst. So we were working with air breather assets, and then also like UAVs. I got put into working like still imagery and stuff instead of the F&B, which I actually really enjoyed. You get to do like a lot of like, it's supposed to be like phase 0, so just initial analysis, whatever you see, and you just calling it out real quick for someone else to, work on later if there's more to it. But you're really just trying to do quick turn products to get back to the people on the ground that need this stuff. So I was doing that for a little bit. I got moved into being a geospatial reports editor, so just doing the QC process in the DGS. And from there, it was just doing a lot of really interesting stuff and something new. But after 4 years of being there, I was getting a little tired and trying to figure out what I was going to do next with my career. And I was trying to do a bunch of opportunities, but wasn't able to at the time due to some stuff going on in my life. And I talked to my chief there and let him know, like, hey, chief, I'm trying to control my destiny here. And he's like, all right, well, I'll keep that in mind. And then within a few months, he told me that, hey, we're bringing a recruitment team out. And from there, like, I really bought into what the recruitment team was selling and put in my application. And like, chief used that as a success story. He's like, hey, you're looking for a way out. We're going to find opportunities for you, and you're going to take them. And it's that easy. So I was pretty happy about that.
Yeah, good stuff. You guys have some interesting backgrounds, especially from a prior operator guy who knows none of this about the Intel world. Hearing the diversity of what you two are doing, and also some of the similarities, and how you both ended up at the same organization that we're about to talk about now is really interesting for me. So back to Ken, how did you find out about the 724, and why did you decide, why decide to put that application in and try to come up here?
So I stated before, I got a brief from the recruiter, Mark. He gave us kind of the garden variety. This is what the unit's about on an on-class level, and kind of pulled some of the Intel professionals that were in the meeting aside and did like a classified version of what the current unit is doing. So it did pique my interest because I did want to see what kind of opportunities were outside of the RPA industry at this point because of my limited knowledge base. So that kind of drive to be able to know a little bit more about like what else is out there. Really wanted to kind of like drive my decision to put in an application. I kind of talked to a couple people within my unit and asked them if they knew anything about it, as inquisitive nature of myself. And they kind of inadvertently said, yes, I've worked for a unit of that supported this this particular unit. They gave me the down and dirty about the actual 724, but they gave me kind of the, yes, we work for it, and I think you'd be a good fit because of just your way you conduct yourself, the way you conduct intelligence, and how you're driving initiative. Definitely would be well suited within that career. So I put an application, kind of like a Hail Mary at that point, because I did not have a lot of experience, and I just wanted to see where it went from there.
Awesome. We'll talk about the actual ANS process you went through here in a minute, but Jeremy, over to you. A, start with how did you find out about it, and then B, why did you pull the trigger?
So I'll be a little, open kimono here, but at the time I just gotten in trouble at my command. I'd gotten an LOR for a situation that, it was a bad time, but I got through it and everything, and that was what was kind of stopping me from doing some of the other things I was looking into, like the National Intelligence University and picking up some other things. So working with my chief to find other opportunities and get through that situation, it was really sitting through that briefing. And actually at the time, like I was kind of told that we didn't really, the unit didn't have a whole lot of positions for GEOINT available, but I still was interested, and I was like, you know what, maybe I'll put it in the package anyway, just see what happens. And ended up getting called down, and like I wasn't sure like what exactly the unit was, because over at DGS1 we did have a program where our analysts would actually go down to work at a different unit out here, and we'd be out here for like 6 months and do stuff like that. But it was completely different unit, completely different job. So I really couldn't use that experience to kind of figure it out. But I'm very happy I was able to get that application in and, go through the selection process.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on Jeremy's experience too, right? Because there's a lot of people who probably have that same background noise going on and probably just say, I'll never get selected. So they move on and try something else. I think Jeremy's example, and there are some other examples that if there's some time in between what happened in your application, or if there's other circumstances, it's not a closed deal. Like, we're going to bring you down sometimes and sort out who you are as a person. And if you add value and can convince us that, hey, that was just a one-off type of thing, man, we'll get past it. We'll grow and let you grow and come here and let you provide and be fruitful in the organization. So, hey, I appreciate you sharing that, Jeremy, because a lot of people wouldn't have, and I think that's an important topic to talk about here. So, Jeremy, I'm going to come back to you first on this one. Digging into the ANS experience a little bit when you came, and I know it's probably evolved a little bit where we're at now, but what was it like when you came here? If you had to describe it to the audience who has no clue, how would you describe it?
So I was in a weird position as well, because after the fact I found out that I was really like the first GEOINT person they ever assessed here. So they were kind of making it up as they went. However, I never would have guessed that going through it. Like, the one word I've used to describe this is professional. It is like the most professional interview process I've ever seen, military, civilian, anything. Like, I've never seen like this many pieces of it. And especially now, being a part of all the assessments and selection process, like there's so much that goes into it, and there's so much dedication from, like, every time it's at least 6 members from our unit that are working through this and like interviewing people, going through all the different parts of it. So I was just very impressed, which also made me very terrified as I was going through it, because I had no idea like if I was doing the right thing or saying the right thing, and just trying to be as honest as possible. But like I'd never been through anything like that because, like I said, I joined at 17, and in the military, like, you don't really go through a lot of interview processes. So, it was intimidating, but at the same time, like, I wasn't scared away by it. I was just very impressed.
Yeah, Jeremy, what was challenging to you during that? If you could describe that a little bit, and then how did you perceive you were doing as you were moving through that process?
So for me, the hardest part was just that open honesty, because like, when you're in an interview, you think like, oh, I need to say the things that they want to hear. But like, as I was going through, I was getting really the impression that they don't want to hear anything specific other than like the truth and to really know the individual. So, really like pivoting to that. And then also, man, really answering some of those questions that really hurt to talk about. Like, I remember the question that will always haunt me was, one of the interviewers asked me like, oh, you used to be a linguist. Do you still maintain your language skills? And I don't, because it's a lot. And I haven't put the effort into it. And she responded back with, wow, the Air Force really invested a lot of money into that. Why did you think that wasn't important? And
I want to say the same thing to you, Jeremy, because I want to say the same thing to you. Chinese is a very useful, beneficial language these days.
100%. Like, I still have it a little bit, but maintaining it fully to pass the DLPT and everything like that was just more than I could do at the time. And but yeah, it's like just those real raw assessments and like that self-reflection on why I do things and, the good of the Air Force. And it's like some of those questions you really don't ask yourself as you're moving through your career. So like it was tough, but like very fair questions. So just all things to be prepared for.
Yeah, that's very well said. A podcast is coming out here this week where I just interviewed 4 operators who just came through our operator selection last week. And one of them was trying to talk about those interviews and describe them a little bit too, of how difficult they can be, because unlike for the operators, when they're coming through the basic pipeline courses, you can usually just get away with a shallow answer and move on because they have so many. Their points here was that they're not moving on. They're going to get you to talk about you and dig down until they feel like they're getting the authentic you. So I appreciate those answers, Jeremy. All right, Ken, over to you. What was that experience like for you when you came to ANS?
Yeah, so my selection experience, when I first got into the room where they were giving the initial like problem set to be able to solve, I really didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just kind of went with it and tried to apply what like fundamentals I learned within tech school and what I've learned on my own throughout my time just kind of being in the intelligence role. And it was very awakening for me, per se. But I was persistent at it, and I didn't give up. I didn't get frustrated. I did ask questions, a lot of questions, and tried to kind of fill that picture of what they were trying to paint for me. And it was an enlightening experience for me.
Ken, how did you perceive you were doing when you were going through the multi-day process here? Did you feel like you were doing good or the opposite, or how was it?
To be frank, I thought I was doing horribly. Didn't feel like I was meeting the intent on what they were trying to get after. But I don't think that was, at that time, I didn't think that was like the core of what they were trying to get after. They were trying to see analytical process on why you could justify the means to an end, essentially, for whatever scenario they're giving you. So it was, at that point, I didn't really realize it at the time, but it was more like an after reflection of what they were trying to get after. And I've seen that, especially now with the way we recruit and assess people and being part of the boards and being part of the actual assessment process on numerous occasions and seeing how to apply that and what I'm trying to get after. And it makes that whole picture come to life.
Yeah, Ken, we're going to start with you on this one because you have been on a bunch of these boards. If you could offer one piece of advice or a couple of pieces of advice, what are some of those things that you would offer to those Intel folks who are going to apply and come through the process now? What should they be doing to have a better opportunity to get selected?
So we do have the actual career field and your job experience in mind, but that's not the end all be all for why we're going to hire someone. They may not have the interpersonal communication skills or the attributes that we're trying to assess against that particularly suit our unit, because there is a certain caliber of person that we try to recruit and retain within our unit. They may be the smartest person on the face of the earth, but if they have no ability to communicate that in a manner down to the lowest level up to the highest level, then that's a fail, because they can't effectively accomplish the mission at that point. So we're looking for that individual that's able to cater to the audience essentially, and use their interpersonal skills to be able to effectively communicate. And there's a wide facet of different attributes that you try to select against, but that's just one of many that we really try to hone in on.
Yeah, good answer. Jeremy, what do you have to add? What are something that you would offer as a tip to folks who are looking to come here in the future and apply?
So really for me, it's two main things. Is first one's going to be the effort that you put in, because you got to remember there's all these people that are bringing you out. Sometimes it's virtual assessments, but for the most part in the past, we've been bringing people out to do these multi-day lifts. So like I'm getting pulled out of my day-to-day job to assess you. And if you're not giving me the effort, then like, why would I want to waste my time assessing you? So like just putting in that effort in the homework and every part of it is a big deal. And then the other part is really just like, we're assessing all of you, like the entire whole airman, so personality is a big part of it too. Like that was what I struggled with, was like, I was so worried about being professional because I had no idea. I thought this was it's a very formal situation, but like, we also need to be able to see that person's personality a little bit. And we do that through like assessment dinner and stuff like that. So, I've just seen people go both sides of that, where they don't show us anything, or some people are just too informal. And then, so it's a lot to kind of toe the line on, but like it's all part of the process.
Yeah, good stuff from both of you. I just want to point the audience back to our website as always. And if you scroll down the left-hand side of the website, you'll see some A&S tips hanging on there. And for everybody, not just operators, but everybody, operators and support, we have our attributes hanging on there with the description, our expectations when you come, and then some reading material to help you bolster some of these before you get here too. So we try to tell people what we value, or we don't try. We do tell people what we value, and we just want to see you come here when we put you on stage and meet our expectations. And it's harder than it sounds, even with the right answers. So those are great answers. All right, folks, we're going to move away from the A&S side a little bit and get into the day-to-day intel inside the organization. And just know, we can only go so deep here. We're keeping this unclassed for obvious reasons. These guys will do the best they can to try to relay to you guys what their life is like in the jobs that they do, and keep it at an unclassed level, which is a tough road to hoe. So, Ken, we'll start with you on here. Can you explain basically what the general task and functional organization the Intel Squadron is to the audience, so they kind of know how you guys are aligned?
Certainly. So the Intel Squadron provides support to the tier, the 724 writ large. There are a number of different line units that support different facets within that organization, and no one job is kind of a catch-all garden variety. Yes, you will have your day-to-day be exactly this line of effort. An Intel person that's going to come to this unit may do something vastly different from someone else that's in a different line unit specifically. My experiences have gone across the spectrum from a different, from being able to do the operator training course support as the intelligence role, all the way into actual mission support and like problem solving on that side. And now where I currently reside is down in the Intel training shop, where I'm one of the lead instructors for the mission qualification certification that new intelligence professionals come to our unit and they go through to be combat mission ready.
Can you build on that real quick before we go over to Jeremy on that onboarding process? Sounds like you are heavily involved in it. So what can people expect when they get onboarded and come to your training?
So when a person comes to the unit, they're be put through a variety of different familiarization courses. So anywhere from the introduction to the actual command writ large, all the way down to how our unit particularly integrates into that whole big architecture. So normal intelligence professionals thing outside, they don't have a lot of essay on what that looks like, and we build that picture for them. So that way they have the ability of kind of conceptualizing what their job's going to look like, essentially. And from there, we go into different familiarization courses. We have guest speakers from the operator training course. We have people that are operators that come down and actually give their perspective on how their particular mission set fills into this whole architecture. So it's big on familiarization, big on like getting the different units and or personnel down there to familiarize the new people with, yes, there's a face to that name or that particular section. So that way they're not intimidated to be able to reach out and ask for assistance or be able to do crosstalk with that particular person or organization.
Yeah, good stuff. Jeremy, over to you. What was your onboarding process like when you came into the organization?
So it was a little different for me again, because as a geo analyst, like I was hired on, and the guy that was here before me, he was heading out the door. So essentially I was it, and they hadn't really created a onboarding process yet, but I was working, we only have 2 geo analysts now in the unit, and then we have 2 civilians as well. And I worked just directly with the 2 civilians, getting like that on-the-job training and getting sent out to NGA and a few other places to get training that I never got before when I was in the Air Force. So that's one of the big benefits of being in our unit, is there's so many opportunities out there, and we have the funding and we have the ability to send people to these things. So like, I'm always on the lookout for new stuff, and it's very rare that I'm told no to find new opportunities to improve my skills. So I love that. Even though it wasn't like formal, I was able to piece together what I needed to do well here. And then since then, we've formalized that training a bit more and have like a new process in place. So the next people that come through are going to be a little more prepared, I guess, than I was. But yeah, it was a great situation, and I loved it.
Awesome. Ken, how was your onboarding experience? I know it's kind of weird looking back now that you're kind of running it, and you're probably adjusting some things, maybe even from things you experienced when you came on board. But how was that experience when you came in the organization?
Yeah, so much like Jeremy's, they really didn't have a formalized process in place at that point. It was really just to show up to the unit. They really needed to figure out a spot for me because I don't think they really had an idea at that point. They kind of threw being intel support to the operator training course. It sounded amazing, like an amazing opportunity, so I took it without really knowing a lot about it. Really, it was a hard learning process for me, because I really did have to go down to those fine details on the fly and learn on my own to be able to effectively support the actual course, the operator training course. So I would say it was a little bit of a detriment to my my process within that particular job. So we're like currently we're refining that process completely. So a person that gets out of mission qualification training, they're ready across the spectrum to support anything down from operator training course up into the most like diverse mission set that we have. So we've really identified those key gaps within the almost 5-year period that I've been here. And made that process more refined and more professional.
You may have said this earlier, Ken, but how long is that? So a guy or girl checks into the organization. Are y'all starting like a course every so often? And then how long is that course?
So ideally, we try to do 2 courses a year and try to align the PCS cycle with people. It's still a work in progress at this point. But we're trying to get the class sizes to like 6 individuals at one point, so that way they can pair up and work as teams to be able to effectively accomplish the mission and what they're trying to get at the graduation of NPT. So I'd say the current timeline right now is about 2 to 3 months, given time and flexibility for local TDYs and in-house external courses that we need to send them to for certification as well. Because not all the courses that we offer within the intelligence squadron through the MPT process do have external courses that we do need the Intel members to be able to go to be able to check that box for being combat mission ready.
Yeah, good stuff. That's so enlightening for me too, who's at the unit and didn't know that. So we've got guys onboarded. I'd like to move over, Jeremy, to the operational tempo and what you're doing on a daily basis, as much as you can tell us above the unclass level of what does that daily battle rhythm look like for you?
Yeah. One quick thing about the onboarding too is I kind of realized, like, you know, you get here and you think like, I passed the assessment, I'm here. But really, like, the assessment kind of continues, because once you're in that training, we're still looking at you to see like where you're going to best fit in the squadron as well. So like, just keeping that, you know, effort and everything going once you're here is a big boon to you. But
let me double click on that real quick, Jeremy, and Ken weigh in on this as well. But I love that model actually, and kind of relating it back to the operator side down at Lackland. Guys are coming in with they're kind of open contract inside the special warfare operator world, and they're going to figure out where their best fit is after the assessment and selection piece. That's when they'll decide who will be a PJ, who will be a combat controller, special reconnaissance type of thing. So I know folks are coming here with an MOS. I'm sorry, with the AFSC. Sorry, Prior Marine here. With an AFSC already, but I like what Jeremy just said there, because I think that shows the maturation of our organization too. So Ken, walk me through that. How does that shake out at the end of the course of where folks are going?
Yeah, and thank you very much for that segue, Jeremy. I appreciate it. So when they're going through mission qualification training, we're continually assessing their attributes on how well they would fit within a certain different facet within the intelligence squadron writ large, or support organizations on the line units specifically. So it is our input as one of the instructors on where they would potentially go, but obviously it resides with the leadership positions on based on our recommendations and where we need to fill manning voids. And see if those members are going to be best fitted for that. In terms of through the mission qualification training process, we do have a lot of progress checks that show their aptitude at certain levels. Those are just to get a gauge on where they're at in terms of their scholastic aptitude at that point. And the big culmination exercise at the end, that's the actual evaluation. That's the one where they can get a pass or fail on specifically. And that's done with little interaction from the instructors and little interaction from the evaluators. Kind of give them problem set, have them work through it, have them give us their back briefs on everything, and then we give them a final determination on being effective or non-effective.
Yeah, I just want to, this is important, and it's important to folks who are thinking about coming here, and that might sound, I can't control my destiny, but you can through your performance and your ability to adapt to situations, because coming maybe from a flying unit as an intel person or an RPA unit, or doing what Jeremy was doing, coming and working with operators you can compare it to pilots, but I would argue, I think Ken knows when he was out at the DEP, man, there are some strong personalities that you were dealing with out there, and getting inducted into that without getting a course like Ken's talking about now, that's getting thrown into the fire. So A, I love that you guys have a course. B, I love that you're looking at attributes and trying to align people with their strengths, because throwing more people into that pit of fire with operators who are very strong-willed, man, that can be a stressful situation. So I think you guys are doing it right. So Jeremy, over to you. I love that you brought that up, by the way. Thanks. So relay a little bit of your battle rhythm to us, or what your daily experience is like, so the people out there who are considering this can get a kind of an idea of what it would be like.
Yeah, no problem. So it's funny you mention that, the strong personalities can be a little daunting at first, especially coming from a DGS. I worked, they call it the sausage factory, because you're just grinding out products, and most of the time you never really know who they're going to. When I was deployed, while I was at the DGS, I actually met some of the units that our products are going to, and they were yeah, we receive them, and then sometimes they weren't even really looking through them, and it was man, that's frustrating. But then you get here, And yeah, you're dealing with those strong personalities, but you're dealing directly with your customer, which is huge. So if I'm making a product, I can literally walk right down the hall to the guy that's requesting it and say, hey, I know you're asking for this, but like, can you keep me on a little bit more? And they're always happy to like guide you to what they actually want, because they'd rather get it done right in the initial phases than like tell you you're wrong at the end and get the wrong product and then, not have as good of a mission. So, it's one of my favorite things actually about working here. But on the day-to-day, another good thing about this unit is it really gives you a chance to progress as well. So I got hired on just as an analyst. So I was, I typically making different products for the ground operators. So, line of sight stuff, elevation, basic grid reference graphics, just everything that they would need to do their job. And but at the same time, like as I ranked up and stuff, the unit also gave me the opportunity to take on a flight chief role. So it can be a little crushing at times trying to do a one deep position while also doing a flight chief for 8, 9 individuals. But it's really helped with my career and my progression as well. So it's been great to have that opportunity to do both sides of things, not just getting to do my actual work, but then also get to take care of other people in the unit as well.
Awesome. Ken, over to you. And I know you're working the training course right now, but maybe even tie it back to when you were out doing other things when you got to the organization. What was that battle rhythm like, and what were you focused on?
Yeah, so the battle rhythm for the operator training course was something completely different. You're TDY a lot because the guys are constantly going TDY for certification testing and being able to their desired learning objectives off per block, and being able to coordinate with Jeremy specifically on or one Tim or Mike back at the GeoInt shop at Maine, be able to get GeoInt specific products and knowing exactly what kind of questions to ask to be able to get the data that guys needed. And that was one of the hurdles I had to get over as well, because I had to ask the guys constantly, like, okay, what are you asking for specifically? That was part of the learning process. So my time at the DET was, was very, very gone a lot and busy a lot. But then going over to support the Special Tactics Squadron, my, being anywhere from supporting exercises, big, large multilateral exercises with different services, all the way down to individual troop or team level exercises where they just need currency reevaluations, and trying to apply the actual scenario development into the current mission set in which they're tasked against right now was some of the more challenging aspects of that, because the dynamic nature of our unit, things seem to change every 6 months. So
how's family life, Ken? Like, how's it been since you've been up there?
So family life, I have a very understanding wife. She has her own profession. She's a full-time administrator for orthopedic surgeon at Pinehurst Surgical. And her job is grueling at times as well, while maintaining the balance with currently a 10-year-old daughter and a newborn 7-month-old baby boy. It was challenging being able to be home in body and mind at that point, because it's not just being home physically, it's being home mentally as well. That became a challenge. So, my marriage is strong. We've been married for almost 13 years now. I don't think she's going to give up on me yet.
Congratulations on a new baby, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So yeah, it was challenging, but it's not something you can't overcome with communication and constantly reassuring them, like, when you're home, you're home. You're not thinking about something else. You're not doing anything else. You're home in support of your family at that point. So I think that was kind of like you'd be able to turn that switch off when you get home. It's one of the bigger challenging factors for a lot of people across the whole country, I'd say.
Yeah, I love it. Jeremy, over to you. How's off-duty life been for you since you got up here?
So it was a learning process for me, because I was dating my wife now at the time, and she decided to moved down here with me when I got the assignment and was just extremely supportive, started a new career, a new life here and everything. And we ended up getting married, and it's been a learning experience for me. Like, longest relationship I've ever been in, so I've made a lot of mistakes coming up to this point. So sure, there's a lot I could teach people on what not to do, but the ops tempo was really high for a while. Just like, Ken said, it's a lot of communication. Thankfully, like, we live in an era now where, I was able to FaceTime with my wife every night, and like, it's really on you to one, make sure your family's prepared for you to go, and then two, like, staying in contact. And another nice thing about the unit is there's so many people there. They will, come by and cut your grass if you need it, or, make sure that your family's taken care of and stuff like that. And it's a very good support network, which I've been very happy about. And but it's what you make of it. And there's times where, like, the ops tempo just really ebbs and flows, where you can be crushed, and then there's other times where it just seems like there's nothing going on and you're itching to get out the door type of thing. But you got to really remember during those lulls that you're taking care of your family and you're spending all that quality time that you can, because you're never going to know when that mission's just going to really pick up again and you're going to need to, jump right out the door.
Well said. Well said. Jeremy, I'm sticking with you for this one. So what has been the biggest challenge you have dealt with at work over the last year?
I'd have to say, so for me, a lot of it's been, doing that just analyst job while also being a flight chief, and like kind of working multiple priorities at the same time. Like, we've been doing some pretty big projects, and like, me as a, just a GEOINT analyst, I'd never thought I would have the opportunity to like help staff ConOps and do things like that. So like, seeing the staffing side of things has been, it's been a very big growth process for me, because like, I always thought that I would just be turning out products for people and not like pushing things that would be going up to generals and beyond, and like having to do quick turns on that and being called in, whenever stuff needs to get done. And so like, just really growing outside of like my basic analyst self it's been a huge step the last few months.
Man, thanks for that answer. That was great. Ken, over to you. Biggest challenge over the last year?
So my biggest challenge, I'd say, is getting into the role of being an instructor versus being the analyst per se. So having to apply all the lessons I've learned, either the hard way or the easy way, and translate that over to the new students that were going through MPT. I've never really done lesson plans. I've never really done like the formal version of mission qualification training and developing it from the ground up. So that was kind of a challenge for me as well. Writing operating instructions and SOPs and all the administrative things that go along with training, and how to like effectively make a professionalized or standardized training program. It's been a little challenging for me because I really haven't done that, especially in Intel. So it was kind of a hurdle to jump over for me. But yeah, it's probably one of the more rewarding positions I've had within the unit. Being able to see guys graduate from mission qualification training and go out and support a major exercise, and then hearing the feedback from either the guys on the teams or other Intel members that were on that particular exercise, and hearing how they contributed and how well the support was, versus this person wasn't able to do X, Y, and Z. You need to revamp your program because we need them to do this when they did this. Being able to see the results is very rewarding. And yeah, I'd say that's probably one of the harder things, is just trying to get away from that analyst role and being the support guy and just being the doer, and now going into like, now I need to pull the reins back and actually be an instructor.
Yeah, I can relate, and most of the cadre on OTC can relate, because we pull them over from the teams, and they go from being, what I always use the analogy of football, they go from being a linebacker to a coach in about a day. And had no training whatsoever to do it. So they focus on those things like you're talking about, how to develop a lesson plan, how to execute a lesson plan effectively, because you may have the best lesson plan, but that doesn't mean the person that is executing it is executing it well. So Ken, I'm going to stick with you for a second. So if the audience doesn't know by now, after about 20 podcasts, we get to select every person that comes into our organization. And that is something that we don't take for granted. We take that very seriously. As we look at the Intel Squadron, Ken, and imagine you're king for a day, describe the person that is like the perfect candidate to you. What are those traits that people need to be successful in the jobs that y'all are doing?
So my perception of the ideal person to be able to come through, get through assessment, and be able to get into the unit and effectively accomplish the mission is the interpersonal communication is one. Like if you have all the drive and initiative in the world and stress tolerance and everything else to go along with it, but you can't communicate, and you can't communicate across the board from either down to the lowest level, which a person may not be so knowledgeable, all the way up into like big Intel community, IC, DoD, and or interagency like realms, then it's a fail, because if you can't communicate it that effectively, it doesn't work. But yes, you do need stress tolerance, because you will be asked to do a lot. And you will have unrealistic timelines per se on a lot of things. You need to be able to effectively communicate like no is not an answer in our organization. You need to be able to, yes, but this is what I can do, and this is what will happen.
Yeah, I love it. I like your unrealistic timelines. I've been there since 97, and every timeline you ever get at that organization seems unrealistic. So, hey, I'm going to steal that. That's my new saying. Because it's unrealistic timelines. Now what? There's no going up to somebody saying, hey, boss, that timeline's unrealistic. It doesn't matter. That's what we have. That's the time we have left to get the products out. So love that description. Jeremy, over to you. Describe the perfect applicant or the perfect Intel person. What traits do you think they need to have to be successful up there?
Yeah, that's right. So I'm going to defer to our unit motto of fate favors the willing. And it's something that's like really kind of, when I first got to the unit, I'm like, yeah, squadron motto, whatever. But like the longer I've been in the unit, the more I've realized like how apt it really is, because there's been so many opportunities that I would have just missed out on if I would have been saying no. And I mean, people in our unit have been replaced because they just say no. And so it's just because you have a 4-year tour here doesn't mean that you're actually going to do 4 years here. It's like Ken said, you can't say no. You got to be able to say yes, but like don't just blindly say yes. You have to be able to, because you're going to get your soul crushed. So be able to adapt, be able to effectively communicate and tell people like, hey, this is how I can work and this is what I can do for you. But then also be looking for those other opportunities to help, make the mission better. So like problem solving is a huge one for me. There's so many times where like, you think your systems are good to go and you're using them in garrison and everything's great. And then as soon as you go out TDY to these locations in the middle of nowhere and you start using your systems, suddenly nothing works the way it is. And you got to find an answer, because the mission still has to happen. So you need to do everything you can to make it go as smoothly as possible. So you got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to find, that get to yes on certain things. And those would probably be the biggest ones for me.
Yeah, I love it. That's why I like asking this question to two people in the same organization, because A, I'm guessing you guys didn't rehearse, and B, you're saying a lot of the same things. So I think that we can take that as gospel, especially the audience and what it takes to be inside the organization that they're in. And talking about Jeremy and him saying problem solving, we just got done with the operator selection. And one of the biggest things that guys need to work on that didn't get picked up is when I'm giving them feedback, we talk about problem solving and how we didn't see their ability to get outside the box fast enough and find solutions, because there has to be a solution. There isn't just staying inside one rut or one ravine and thinking you're going to find things. So their question that always comes back to me is, well, how do you learn to solve problems better or solve problems differently? And what I keep pushing to them is, the first thing I tell people is you got to read, but you got to read things that pushes your assumptions and pulls you out of your normal lines of thinking. And I always use the analogy of, if you're a conservative, let's look at the political realm, which is heated right now. But if you're a conservative, I would guess that you're probably just reading things that confirm the values and things that you have. What I want to push people to do is read the opposite side and learn how to not get emotional when you're reading it, and seriously consider other people's opinions, because then you start opening up awareness and start learning how to see things a little bit differently. And when those problems start arising, you can start finding the opposite sides of the problem set or a solution, or you can see things a little bit wider than you could before. So guys, we are rounding third base now. I can't believe this is already over. I could do this all day. But here's the last question. Ken, we're going to start with you. You're on stage and you're getting to speak to all the Air Force intel people out in the world. And you're getting to brief them on the 724. What is that message? Why should they consider the 724 for an assignment?
Certainly. So being at the 724th is unlike any other opportunity you will have had in the Air Force, and you will have in the Air Force. This unit is very dynamic in nature and very rewarding in its entire spectrum. So you will do things in your AFSC, and you will do things vastly outside of your AFSC, and it'll challenge you on a day-to-day basis, if not a yearly basis, to be able to learn and be consistent on what's going on in the operational environment. Most Air Force units, you won't have that. You won't have, within a fighter unit, you may not have the diverse nature of being able to perform in a 3 Deltas career field a little bit, or over into maybe an imagery analyst a little bit, and being able to kind of facilitate that role if you're that guy that's there at that point in time. So it's not just a one-stop shop. Yes, you're going to be an operations intelligence analyst and have the garden variety. Yes, you're going to build a PowerPoint and you're going to brief it to the wing or the group or whatever. At that point, you're going to do far beyond that, and it's the most rewarding almost 5 years that I've had, and I look forward to sharing those experiences when I can to the bigger Air Force and the rest of the DoD writ large. I mean, I have no idea what my next assignment is going to be. So
that was great, Ken. I appreciate that answer a lot. Jeremy, over to you. You got the stage. Every intel person in the Air Force is sitting there. What are you telling them? Why should they make the 724 a future assignment?
For me, this mission is amazing. Like, getting to do some of the things that no one else in the Air Force as an intel analyst will ever get to do. In my time here, I've gotten to do exchanges with other countries and go to some beautiful places, and the training that I've gotten, I would never get anywhere else in the Air Force. Like I said, sometimes it's just a blank check of hey, I think this is good and I can justify it, and it helps the mission, so we go for it. And just doing that stuff, and then even some of the fun stuff, going out with the operators, and we get to do some of the shooting and stuff, and getting to fire off a 40 mic cannon, that was pretty cool. And even something silly like throwing a smoke grenade, something I would have never done sitting at a DGS, but just getting to go outside and do more things than just be an analyst. And I mentioned earlier, getting to work directly with your customer every day, and getting to see how your products help them, and then improving your products based on that. And one instance where I had, I was doing some terrain analysis for one of the guys, and they had to walk up a side of a mountain, and the data that we had, it wasn't working for them. And so we had to keep adjusting the degrees and stuff to say 15 degrees is actually a lot harder to walk up than we originally thought. I'm cool, man, I'll adjust these colors and go from there. And just getting that feedback from somebody is, it can really help recommit you to a mission when you're actually hearing, even if your product didn't work for somebody, just getting to hear that, one, they're using it, and two, hey, I want it better this time, and here's how we'll do it. And I never thought I'd get that working where I was before. So I love it. Love coming here every day.
Man, this has been a fun podcast for me, and getting to talk to you too. And I sure do. I just want to say, as we're getting off of here, thank you both for taking time out of your day. Y'all probably can't tell, but Jeremy's outside of the organization in his car, or standing outside of his car at times, trying to get enough service on his phone to complete this interview. So to both of you, I appreciate it tons.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for this opportunity, Trey. It was great. Thank you for relaying it to us and giving us the opportunity